Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, Get Started with Sage HR Online Services for Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Duncan, I'll be your host for this session, and I am joined by Calvin, who's there in the background, ready and waiting to answer any questions. Let's now take a look at what we're going to cover in the webinar. So we're going to start with a quick look at the setup process, explaining how to set up online services from within Sage 50 Payroll. I'll then demonstrate how to upload payslips to the online portal and also how to upload P60s. So we'll go back and we'll upload some P60s from the last year end. We'll then take a closer look at the online portal, explaining how to navigate and what each option does. And we'll talk about some of the processes for dealing with starters and leavers and how an employee can now update their own personal or bank details for you to then import into your Sage 50 Payroll software. And then a very quick demo at the end of the employee portal and a run through on how to get the mobile app, which is a great way for employees to access their pay slips from a smartphone. And we will stick around at the end of the presentation to continue answering any of those outstanding questions. So let's move straight on to the first section on setting up online services. So this feature comes included in all of our Sage 50 Payroll subscriptions, unless you're an accountant with our Sage 50 Payroll Bureau solution, in which case you will have Online Bureau, which is a slightly different version of online services. And in order to get set up, you just need to run through some steps within the online services settings. There are 7 steps in total, and you'll follow them from top to bottom. And just to give you an overview of what each step does, we'll run through the process on the slide, and then I'll show you where the options are in the program. So when you run through steps 1 to 3, you'll be creating a login for your main Sage HR admin user. So you'll be asked to either sign in with a Sage Online account, so an email address and a password, or if you don't already have one, you can create one from that first step. Now, we do strongly recommend that you use a generic email for your admin account, so don't use an email address that'll be used for any employee to access their pay slips. So don't use your own personal email address if you're going to use that for your pay slips. Try and use a generic account such as payroll @ admin @ info @ something like that as the login for the main Sage HR admin user. Now, the second step you'll complete registers your company for online services. That's a one-time process. Just need to run through that, and if prompted, sign in again. And then the third step allows you to add additional users and giving them permission to upload pay slips from your payroll. So if you do have other users that log into your payroll and you want them to be able to upload pay slips using their own email address and password, they can be added to the authorized users from step 3. Now, steps 4 and 5 is around managing your employees. So this ensures that they have an email address, which will be used as the employee login. And if you choose to complete step 5, you'll be uploading historical payslips, which will then create the Sage HR profile for your employees, and it will invite them to sign up and start using it. Step 6 allows you to either show or hide holiday information on payslips. So if you record holidays in payroll, you can set it to show. If you don't, you can set it to hide. And step 7 is a handy link to your company's online portal. So that's a web address specific to your company that you could use to easily access the portal from within Sage. So we'll take a look at those steps very briefly in the program. So if I just bring the slides down, you'll see that I'm already logged into Sage 50 Payroll. And to find the settings, I would just go to the company tasks here on the left-hand side. And then I would click onto online services settings. Now, for the purposes of this demo, I've already set this up. So I've completed steps 1 and 2, and they're the only steps that will have a tick next to them, because for all the other steps, you can go in and out of these steps whenever you need to. So step 3 is where you can add additional users if you need to be able to upload online payslips. So it's not connecting for me at the moment, but I am using a test account, so I will just try that again later. Step 4 is to choose which employees will receive online payslips. So you can put a tick against their email address. And if the email address isn't pulled through from the employee record, you can enter the email address here. So it needs to be unique to the employee and it will be used as their login. Step 5 is optional. So at the point you upload the first payslip, the employee is invited to start using Sage HR online services. And you can either do this by uploading historical payslips, or you can wait until the next current payslip is due. But if you're going to do historical ones, and you can do this at any time, just go into step 5, enter a date range of the payslips that you want to upload. So maybe I want all of them for the tax year to date. You can then choose the employees that you want to upload historical payslips for. And then it'll confirm the number of payslips for each employee, and then you can just go ahead and publish them. So I've already done this. I'm not going to publish them now, but you can come back to this point if you ever need to go back and upload historical payslips for one or more employees. So step 6, I've already set this to hide the holiday entitlement, but if I wanted to switch that round to show, all I would need to do is to click the show button. And then step 7, it's that link to our online services portal. So if I was to click onto that, go to portal, it'll open up my web browser. The website address at the top is specific to my company. And then it would be a case of signing in with that admin account. So the email address you used in step 1, as well as the password for that Sage ID login. And that's taken me into the online portal, and we're going to take a closer look at this a little bit later on in the demo. So those are all of your setup steps. There's more information from that help link that you've just seen. And the employee, when you upload their first payslip, whether that's historical or the next current payslip, will get a welcome email, which looks something like the image there on the right-hand side. And they would then use that email to create their login, choose a password for their login, and then they can either log in on the website from a browser, or they can start using the Sage HR mobile app. Now that welcome email it does expire after a period of time. So if you do ever need to resend a welcome email, if you follow the link on the handout here, that will explain how you can do that either for an individual or for all employees. So we've got everything set up, and the next thing I want to show you is how to upload payslips and P60s from Sage 50 Payroll. And you'll find it's a really quick process. You can schedule your payslips if you want them to be published on a future date. And if you compare it with the time taken to either print or email individual payslips, you should find that this will save you a load of time. So when it comes to the payslips, this is an option as part of your payroll process, and we will demo this in just a moment. It'll display the names of the employees that are set up for online payslips. So it doesn't have to be all of your employees. You could just set up some of them, maybe run a bit of a pilot if you're starting out for the first time. And then you can either make those payslips available immediately, and the employees will get a notification email if you do that, or you can set them to publish on a selected date. And then when that date comes around in the future, at that point, the employee gets their notification, and at that point, they'll be able to view the payslip. Very similar process for P60s. That'll be done via the year-end process. So I'm going to show you both of these in the next demo if I just bring the slides down. And I'm just going to return to my payroll tasks. And for this demo, if I select all of my employees, I'm running my 30th of September payroll. So that was what I've set as my process date. And I've already been through and I've entered everyone's payments and deductions. I've done my pension assessment, and I'm ready to produce those pay slips for my employees. So as you can see, there is a separate option to upload online pay slips, which is found here in the payroll tasks. So if I go ahead and click on that, this then brings up the screen showing the employees' gross and net pay for each of the employees that I've set up. So a quick scan down like this, I'm fairly happy with that information, and then I can choose either to publish immediately or to schedule them for a future date. So pay date isn't until the end of the month, so I'm going to schedule and I'm going to make these live a couple of days before payday. So on the Thursday, 28th of September will be my publish date. And once that's set, I can click Publish Payslips, and you'll see a progress bar that moves across. The time taken depends on how many payslips you're uploading, so how many employees basically. And once it is complete, you'll see a confirmation message like this. And in this case, it says that they are scheduled and successfully set to publish on the date specified. So there's no further action needed. So these will go live on the 28th. But if I wanted to preview those payslips, have a look at what they would look like on the online portal, there is a link for me to log in as the admin account. If I follow that link, that'll then log me in to the online portal. And as an admin user, you will have a payslips section on the left with an icon of what looks like a filing cabinet. And if you click onto payslips, this is your payslips dashboard, showing you all of the payslips that are either published or pending. And as you can see, my latest payslips here are all pending for the 30th of September pay date, being published on the 28th. And if I want to have a quick preview of what any of those payslips look like, I can click on them, see the information here on screen. It'll be the exact same format that your employees see. And I could even download a PDF copy of that payslip if I wanted to. So that's the payslips dashboard. From the employee's point of view, they won't see this payslip yet, but when we look in the employee profiles, we'll give you a look at what they will see, including any historical payslips that have been uploaded for them. So that was payslips for our current pay date. I'm going to quickly show you P60s as well. Now, normally you would upload these as part of your year-end process, but if you wanted to add the latest P60s to your employees online portal, if you're setting up now, for example, you can kind of go back in time and upload them from the year-end process. Really simple to do. First of all, set your process date to the last day of that historical tax year. So in my case, I'm setting it to the 5th of April, 2023, which is the last day of the 22 to 23 tax year. Once you've done that, go to the payroll year-end option here in the bottom left corner, and then you can have a look at the process map where we've already got the correct tax year chosen. We can skip ahead straight to the produce P60s option, and then we can click this upload button to upload online P60s, and then we'll see a very similar screen. So it's got the 5 employees that I've set up for online services, and then there's an upload option. So there's no schedule for the P60. It will just upload them immediately. So when I click upload, we'll see that progress bar move across. Well, no progress bar, but we have got the confirmation message. So P60s have been successfully published. And again, if I followed that link to access online services, which I've already got open, and go onto the P60s tab just here at the top, I'm going to refresh the page. You can see there that my P60s are now visible, and they were published on today's date, the 12th of September. And a quick preview of an online P60, it looks something like this. And you can get the full official copy if you download the PDF from the top. And again, that will be visible to the employee when they log in and view their own profile. So that's how simple it is to upload your payslips as part of the pay run and your P60s as part of the year-end process. You can always follow the links on the handout here if you want to read more about this. But we're now going to move on, and we're going to give you a closer look at the online portal itself. So your payslips are being stored in Sage HR Online Services, which is a basic version of our Sage HR platform. You get this included in your payroll subscription, and some of you may have some other options in your toolbar because you may have a subscription to further HR modules as part of your package, or you might have chosen to subscribe to further HR modules yourself. But all of the payslips and P60s features are included with the payroll subscription at no extra cost. So a quick look at the main areas in HR online services. So these are the areas that all of you will have access to as an admin. So there's a dashboard which displays some useful links and links to the settings where you can add your company logo. There's the payslips area, which we've just seen, where you can view all scheduled or published payslips and P60s in one place. So really handy as an admin user. There's the company directory, where you can view and manage your employee profiles, which we'll take a look at next. There's a reports area where you can view terminated employees, that's your leavers, as well as access logs. And there are some settings, and I'm going to point out some of the key settings for global settings, employee permissions, and also where you can set up 2FA or two-factor authentication, just to give that extra level of security for your employees. So let's take you through some of these options now in the demo. So we'll start here on the company directory. And this is usually where you land when you log in to HR Online Services. And you can see here there's a profile been created for all of the employees that are set up for online payslips and P60s. And there's one additional profile which has an email address, has the label instead of a name. And this is the admin account that was created when you first set things up. So I'm signed in as an admin, which means I can view all of the other employee profiles. But when an employee signs in, the default setting is that they will only see their own information. So taking a closer look at an employee profile, just click on one of the names here. I've gone into employee 1, and you'll see there are some employee details. And these fields that are grayed out means they're linked to Sage Payroll. So that information can only be changed in Payroll if you need to update it. And it shows the email address that the employee is using as their login. Now, if that needs to change for any reason, there is a specific process you need to follow, which I'll go through later on in the demo. So we've got things like the start date, employment status, location and team where applicable. And then we have an access level. So by default, your employees will have employee access, and that's what they should have. But if you need to upgrade anyone to be an administrator, so maybe you have a colleague in the payroll team that needs admin access to the online portal, it is possible to upgrade an account to administrator by setting the access level just here. Now, I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it as employee, and I'm just going to use my admin login to log in as an admin. And if you do need to resend an individual welcome email, you can actually do that from personal settings here at the bottom. And you've got a link here to resend the invitation email. So that's just one way you can resend it if an employee hasn't registered in time. Now, as well as the employee details, you have personal details and bank accounts. So these fields, a lot of them sync with Sage 50 Payroll. And we'll look at how that works a little bit later in the demo. So it's pushed through the date of birth, the address, and mobile phone number here from our payroll records. This can be amended either by an admin user or by the employee itself, and then changes can be imported back into Payroll. And we've also got the details of the bank account that we set up in Payroll. So it shows the name, account number, and sort code, and that as well can be edited by the employee if they want to inform you of any changes. And then the main area, I guess, for employees is their payslips and P60s, which look like this. It only shows published information. So as you can see, the employee can't see their September payslip just yet, but they can see all the historical payslips going back to April, what I uploaded from, and they'll be able to view individual documents like so. They can download them, and as an admin, you can delete published payslips if you need to from the individual profile. So we'll just view this payslip. As you can see, it's all the payments and deductions, and you've got that Save as PDF option at the top. P60 is very similar. Just viewing that on screen. And it does mean that if an employee has a payslip or P60 query, you could sign in as an admin to the online portal rather than going into Payroll, and you'll see the exact same document that they see by accessing their profile. So that is your company directory. We'll have a quick look at the dashboard. So that was here at the top. So this contains some links to add a company logo. So that takes you to some of the settings. You can add information to the admin profile account. There's not really much point in doing that. And there's a link to download the Sage HR mobile app. This link is also visible to employees. And I'll just point out the knowledge base. If you want to learn more about Sage HR, you can access the knowledge base from this link here. You've already seen the payslips, so we'll skip past that, and I'll now go to reports. So your reports includes the terminated employees list. So I don't have anyone terminated at this point, but if I get leavers further down the line, I can terminate them in HR. And you have some access logs. So you can get a view, particularly after setting this up, you can get a view at who's logged in within the last day, month, who's using the mobile app. So I've got one employee using the mobile app here, and then details of who's logged in and who's never logged in. So maybe if you've got people that didn't see the original registration email, maybe after a period of time, you could come into the access logs and you've got the option of resending welcome emails to anyone that's never logged in. So you can send a blanket email to all, or you can send it individually from here. So those are your main areas that you would navigate on the left. If you want to quickly find an employee, you can type some characters of their name in. That'll take you straight to their profile. So that's pretty useful as well. But the last area I want to show you is around settings. So there is a bit of configuration you can do. You can hide certain information from employees if you wish to. So maybe you don't want them to have access to bank accounts or to update their own personal details. That can all be switched off. So let me show you how to access the settings. So first of all, you click on your admin username at the top of the screen here, and this is where you'll find the settings option. Now in the general settings, this is where you can add your own logos to replace the Sage logo at the top of the screen here, and also on notification emails. But it's the permissions area I just want to point out. So if I go to permissions and then global, this is where you can control what information is visible in a profile. So you could switch off bank accounts if you wanted to. You could completely switch off the personal tab if you don't want employees to view and edit their address and contact details. And there are specific fields that could be hidden as well. So I've taken out things like driving license, LinkedIn and Skype. Don't want to see that information, but you've got control over what you want to show on employee profiles globally. So they're really useful settings, the global permissions, and you can save any changes here at the bottom. And the other permissions I want to show you are the employee permissions, so specifically to the employee access level. So at the top here, by default, they will have this setting selected that they will only see their own information. But if you are using some of the other HR modules, or if you wanted to give your employee a view of the company directory, you can choose one of these other options, either to see other team members, if you set up teams, or all other employees from the company page. It only shows names and contact details where allowed. You won't see the full profile pages, but that is an option, perhaps if you start to use HR more widely. But this is your default option where employees only see their own information. Now in this section underneath, there is a setting to allow employees to access their payslips after termination. So I mentioned that terminating employee is like making them a leaver in HR, but what that also does from the leave date is it removes access for the employee to get into their profile. But if you want to give them a period of time to view and download their payslips and P60s after their leave date, you can choose a period of 7 days, 30 days, or 1 year from the termination date, and you can select this box here so that they have access to their payslips after termination. And then some other fields allowing employees to edit their own profile picture, for example. So you can allow them to edit that if you wish to. So those are the main settings I wanted to point out. If you are interested in setting up the two-factor authentication, that's under security. So just head to this area, Sage Accounts and two-factor authentication. You can read more about this either from the link here or from our knowledge base. So that is a very quick tour of the admin portal. So the online portal if you're signed in as an admin. So other things I want to show you in the webinar today includes some processes for dealing with starters and leavers. I want to try and show you how employees can update their own information and how you can import changes. So let's start with starters. So you've already seen one way to create an HR profile, and that is to set up your employee in Payroll in the usual way and then upload a payslip. And that then automatically creates a Sage HR profile using the details from Payroll. But in the future, you might want to think about doing it the other way. So you might set up your employee first in Sage HR, and then you can import the employee information into your Payroll. So you can import them as a new starter. Now, the full steps are on the link just there, but I will give you a demo shortly to show you how that works. Now, for leavers, one action you'll need to take in HR is to terminate the employee. So that is recording their last working day and the reason they've left. And it will also disable the profile with effect from the leaving date or the period of time after the leaving date if you've allowed access to payslips after termination. And then to record that same information in Payroll, you would either run the leaver wizard in the usual way and just re-enter that same leaving date, or it is possible to import the leaver details from HR. So once you've completed a pay run, before you do your FPS, you can do an import, see if there's any leaver details from HR, and that will then import the leaving date. The other thing that can be maintained online and updated in your Payroll are employee personal details and bank details. So to import the changes, you'll run a task at the start of your pay run for import employee data. So just pointing out where that is in the program. And then if there has been a change to any personal details or bank details, you'll see there's an employee update to import. You can then view the details of what's changed. If you're happy with the information, you can then go ahead and import it, and that will keep your payroll records in sync with HR. So I'm going to try and give you a demo on some of these steps. So let's just bring the slides down again, and we're going to start in Sage HR. So let's create a new starter in HR because we want to import the details into Payroll. So that can be done by signing in as an admin user, and then from the company directory, clicking the Add button here at the top. That will then prompt you to add a new employee. So you would plop the employee's name in, and I'm not very imaginative when it comes to this sort of thing. You put an email address in, which will be used as the employee's login, and you record the employee's start date. At this point, you can invite them to create their login for HR, so create their password, or you can choose not to do that at this point and just invite them when the first payslip is uploaded. So we're going to leave that ticked, and we're going to create the HR profile. And what it then does is it asks for some further employee details, which are then going to be used to create the record in Payroll. So we've got the title, we can have the date of birth. So let's pop this in. Marital status and gender. We've then got the address and contact details. We've already got the start date, and you've got the starter form information. So if they have a P45, you can select this option and you can enter P45 details. Or if it's just a starter checklist, you would choose this option. So I'm just going to fill in some of the remaining information here. So we can pop some contracted hours in. And salary details. And then bank account details as well. So it's been recently updated where you can now add a lot more information, and obviously this populates more of the information in Payroll. So let me just pop some dummy details in here. All fingers and thumbs today. And that should now hopefully be enough information to create the profile. So this is employee 6. They've now been set up in HR, and that will then be ready to import into our payroll. So that's your starters. Leavers, known as terminating an employee. So I'll quickly show you how you do that. So if someone's leaving, you go into their profile in HR, and from the employee information, scroll all the way to the bottom. You can click terminate. You can record the last working day and select a reason for leaving and any additional comments. And if I click terminate, from that last working day, or after that last working day, the access will be removed, except in our case, they'll get a further 30 days because we set that up in our settings. You can see they are now appearing in our terminated employees list with the last working day shown just here. And one other thing I want to show you, and for this one, I'm going to log in as an employee. So I'm just going to open a guest browser. Employee would go to sage.hr to access their profile. And then there's a sign-in option right at the top here. So employee would put their email address in. And the password that they set up. This is what an employee sees. So it's a basic version of the HR portal that you see as an admin. So they've still got a dashboard with some useful links. They can go into their profile, and this is where they could, if they needed to, make changes to their address. So I'm just going to update an address for an employee, pop in a new postcode, and save some changes. This is also where obviously the employee can view their payslips and P60s. So exactly the same look and feel as what you would see when you look at their profile as an admin. So I've got in and I've made a change anyway to their address. So you can see we've got a new address entered there. From an admin point of view, the record in HR will update immediately. So that is now showing the new address lines. And what I'll show you next is importing these changes back into Payroll. So just to recap, if you want to, you can create the employee profile first in HR, entering the main details in HR to import as a new starter into Payroll. For leavers, you would terminate them, set on the leaving date and the reason for leaving. And changes can be made either by an admin user or the employee themselves, and all of this is then available to import. So just returning to Payroll now, and I'm just going to set my process date back to September. And what you'll see in the Payroll tasks, so second option down here is to import employee data. So that connects to HR. It'll search for any changes and it'll prompt me to import them. And the same option is available here in the process map. So let's have a quick run through of that now. Importing employee data. It does recommend that you take a backup before continuing, but for this demo, I already have a backup. So I'm going to click no. And then it should alert us to any changes that have been made in HR. So I've got a starter, reliever, and an employee update to import. The only ones I'm going to import at this stage of the pay run is the starter and the employee updates, because for leavers, you need to complete their final payroll first. But that does tell me that there's a leaver to import, and if I click on it, it'll tell me which employee it is and when they're leaving. So that would be quite useful to know at the start of a pay run. But in terms of bringing the information in, I'm going to start by importing the starter. So this is the employee that we set up in HR, and here are all of the details that were recorded at the time. We can change some of these details if we need to before the import. Then it's a case of ticking the employee and clicking import. I'm going to click yes to continue. And you can see that that record has been successfully imported. The other one I'll do while I'm here is the employee update. So we have that existing employee, and if I view the details, we can see it's actually the address lines here that have changed. So nothing else was updated, it was just the address. I can tick this box, and I can import this one. And that's then made the change to the existing record. As I say, I'm going to leave the levers till later on, but we can now see we've got that new employee record set up, employee 6. And if we want them to receive their pay slips online, just need to go to the analysis tab to enable online services, or you could do that from the online services settings. You could tick the box there. And for employee 1, they've moved from South Shields to North Shields, and you can see the new address details now appear in the payroll record. So the idea is you would process your payroll in the usual way. You would upload the pay slips, and that will then link together the new starter. So I'm just going to upload the pay slip for the new starter. I'll publish that on the same date as the other employees. And then once you've updated records, we could go back. We could then, at that point, import the leaving date. So this is entirely optional. You can still do the leaver wizard in Payroll to record the leaving details. You could choose not to allow your employees to view their personal and bank details, so you wouldn't get any updates through that way. And for starters, you can set them up in Payroll and then upload a payslip to create them in HR. But I'm just going to import the leave date for the employee who was leaving. So everything's up to date. This employee is now marked as a leaver, and I can go into my reports if I want to produce the P45. So it's in the employee folder. You can always add it to your favorites if you need to. So that one there is the one that we can use to print out the P45. So that's important, the employee updates. Loads of information you can find on the links on the handout. I just thought I'd give you a demo to give you a flavour of how that works. Now, just before we have a very quick look at the employee app, I just want to outline the process if you ever need to change an employee email address. So it's one of the only fields that you can't just change directly in HR. So there is a specific process you follow. So when it comes to a new email address, what you'll need to do is to terminate the existing employee in HR. Make sure you've saved any information that you need from that record and then delete it. So once you've terminated, there is a little trash can icon, which will completely remove the profile in HR. Once you've done that, you can amend the email address in Payroll for that individual. And then to set them up again, you can upload historical pay slips or the next current pay slip. And as soon as that's done, they'll get a new invitation email to that new email address, and then that will create a new profile for them. But you can see the detailed steps if you follow the link there. But it's terminate and delete in HR, amend email address in payroll, and then upload payslips. So last thing for the demo is a quick look at the employee portal. In fact, we saw some of this earlier when I went in to change the employee details. So the employee has a basic portal with some useful links on their dashboard. They can add their own photo if you've allowed that. They can view and update personal and bank details if you give them access to those tabs. And then they can view or download any of their published payslips and P60s, remembering that the scheduled ones won't appear in their profile until the schedule date. So they can access that as a reminder from sage.hr by signing in with their email address and password. But another way for them to access their information and also to keep their personal details up to date is by using the free Sage HR app, which is available on the App Store and Google Play Store. A few screenshots are available there on the slide, and you can read more information about the app, which you can share with your employees by following the link just there. I do have a quick video that I'm going to show you with some of the features of the HR app, and then we'll be just about ready to wrap up. So I'll play that video for you, and I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes' time. And that there was the mobile app. So we are just about out of time at this point, but we will stick around to answer any of your final questions in the Q&A. Very quick run through of the further support that's available to you on all things payroll. So we have an online help centre at sage.co.uk/help, which can also be accessed by clicking any of the help options within Sage 50 Payroll. From here, you can view all of our help guides. So we have a section dedicated to online services where you can read all about Sage HR online services. You can also access our upcoming webinars and our webinar recordings using the webinar link at the top of the screen, and you'll find all the contact details for our support team from that online help centre. So do check it out. If you have a question after the webinar today, that's a great place to look. Also, to make you aware, as part of your Sage membership, you get access to Sage University free of charge. So you can create your profile at www.sageu.com. And you can find your way to the Sage 50 payroll training, where you'll find a number of bite-sized courses, certifications, and full e-learning courses to brush up on your payroll knowledge. So a really useful resource, whether you're new to payroll or an experienced user. sageu.com. Sign in, create your profile, and get stuck in. So as I say, we are going to stick around a little while longer in case there are final questions that you'd like to ask. It's your final chance as well to download a copy of the handout if you wish to do so. And one ask from me: when you exit the webinar, if you see a survey pop up, if you wouldn't mind just spending a moment to leave any thoughts that you had on today's webinar, it really does help us to improve the sessions going forward, and we take all of your feedback on board, and we do read it all. So if you get the pop-up for the survey as you exit, if you wouldn't mind completing that, I'd very much appreciate that. So I'm going to go on to mute just briefly, just to see if there are any final questions we need to answer, and then I will come back when we are ready to close the webinar down. So I'll speak to you soon. Okay, so it does look like the questions have all been answered, and we haven't had any through for a few minutes now. So we'll wrap things up at that point. Thanks everyone for joining us at the webinar today. Please do take a minute to complete the short exit survey as you leave, and look out for a follow-up email that'll arrive later today, as it includes links to register for our future webinars and also a link to watch the recording of today's session. And feel free to pass that on to any colleagues that might find it useful. So with that said, we're going to end things there. Enjoy the rest of your week, and hope to see you on some of our other webinars very soon. So goodbye for now.